Hey YouTube, it's Girl83. This is my anxiety after weight loss surgery video. Let me give you guys a little background about me because I have a history of anxiety prior to surgery too. Just so you guys can understand the depth of my anxiety now and why I feel like my weight loss surgery has triggered it more. So let me start from the beginning, you guys. I'm gonna try not to make it real drawn out. I'm gonna try not to ramble. So I got hit by a school bus almost 14 years ago, 13, 14 years ago. I ended up with whiplash. They said I had whiplash and shoulder pain, which the chiropractor, they reset at the last appointment. I saw them for maybe 6 weeks. So yeah, still the injury to my left arm is still an issue. I went on with my career. I always had migraine headaches. Like my head was just hurting all the time. Kind of irritated about that. Like to the point like my head would hurt so bad I would be nauseous. Like just I would go to the emergency room and they'd have to put me in a room with the lights out. Come to find out this year, I have bulging disc in my neck. I have 2 bulging discs. I have narrowing, and I have arthritis in this left shoulder where the seatbelt was crossed over. And they're calling them general injuries because of the fact that it's been such a long time since the injuries happened. They claim there's no real proof that's how I acquired these injuries. But you don't acquire certain injuries just by walking upright. You know what I mean? Like some kind of trauma had to happen. So that happened with my CNA career after that, and I've always had pain. I even, tried losing weight, working out. I was in a relationship where I was just not happy. I was trying to get out of that relationship, and I felt like I was stuck in the relationship because we started dating when I was young. I was like 17. I was just about to turn 17. So 16 or 17, and then here I am, 22. And I am gaining weight and I'm just feeling miserable. I'm not happy. So I said, you know what, I need to get away from him. I started spending time in the gym just to get away from him. Lost a lot of weight. I noticed that my knees at the time would make the sound of crunching. So I would just okay, yeah, that's just kind of strange. I would jog and finish my mile in 15 minutes or less. And I was still considered a big girl. I was still over 200 pounds. And I did that every day. Almost every, if I missed a day, I maybe would miss 2 days out of a week. Rare, but I would stay at the gym that much just to stay away from my boyfriend, the one I was dating at the time. He would threaten me. He would put his hands around my throat sometimes. He would just look like he had an out of body experience and not in a good way. So I was nervous looking over my shoulder a lot of times. If I had a new boyfriend and we had split up, because we would be on again, off again, and I would just always look over my shoulder, and he would always say stuff like, you can run but you can't hide. I don't care who you're with. I don't care if you get married. And so now let's go ahead and talk about when me and my husband we're officially engaged. Now I've stopped dating this other guy. I'm out of that relationship. It was annoying and it's in the past. I moved forward with who started out as my best friend, and we would just go hang out and talk and go on little side dates with each other and really enjoy each other's company. Now we're officially engaged years later, 10 years later, which is probably the duration of my relationships with my ex. It was 10 years. So then right after that, then my husband now came in. I found out I was pregnant. I was still lifting and working at a hospital, and we made it to 20 weeks, and I went to we had a doctor's appointment the following day, and I was I'm in so much pain. I can't wait for the appointment. So we ended up going to the emergency room. When I got there, I almost had that baby in the waiting room. I mean, I wish I was exaggerating, but when I got when they took me back to examine me, the nurse practitioner was like, you are 7 centimeters dilated. So they admitted me, rushed me to one of those rooms. I was in a room within an hour. They put me upside down for 3 days, gave me medication, tried to give me the steroids to help to develop the baby a little bit. They wanted to see if I could make it to 32 weeks. I think it was 32 weeks. And I said, wow, that's a long stretch for me to be already dilated 7 centimeters. And his sac was leaking. It was just continuously dripping, and he was running out of amniotic fluid. Now, there's no real preparing yourself for that. Like, even though I was telling myself, I'm not going to let this bother me. Like, you know, it's okay. Like, everything's not meant to be, which is somewhat true. However, it over time has contributed to my anxiety that I have currently. And how it escalated is by me actually having 2 more pregnancies, which I miscarried early on in the first trimester, and then I had another pregnancy, which is the 4th pregnancy. My daughter, when I got pregnant with her, I was extremely nervous. I was anxious to get it over with, or anxious for whatever was going to happen to let it happen, and I was so scared of losing her. So I did everything my doctors wanted me to do, but in the back of my mind, I didn't think that I was going to actually bring home a live baby, because I was just already having so many issues already. I couldn't get the connection between myself and my child, because I felt like any minute now this could just be taken away from me. What's stopping that from happening? So, a little bit. Pregnant, I started to go into preterm labor around 20 weeks. They discover I have an incompetent cervix. They said, let's put the stitch in. It's called a cerclage, and it's supposed to keep your cervix closed so that the baby doesn't come out. So they caught it. I was going to my high risk doctor every 2 weeks, sometimes every week, and I probably went to the emergency room to have the baby checked and have me checked probably, I don't know, 15, 20 times, you guys. They were so nice to me. They were so understanding, and they never gave me, they never let me doubt for a minute that it wasn't okay to come and just walk in to the hospital if I needed to get checked. And they did a great job of keeping me calm in that sense. And if the nurses weren't already displaying empathy for my situation and why I felt so anxious about it, like they gave me some medication also that was supposed to be for nausea, but it also makes you drowsy. It kind of works like a Benadryl, but I didn't want to take it because I didn't want it to affect my baby. But you guys, I was a total bat case, and I held it all in because I didn't want my husband to be affected by how I was feeling. You know what I'm saying? So I kept the negative feelings and negative thoughts in my head most of the time. And I kept the fears to myself most of the time. So we took the cerclage out. Murphy's Law. Now we want her to come out. She's not coming out. And we end up having a C-section. I didn't dilate past 2 centimeters. So they were like, okay, let's try to up the Pitocin. I had my epidural, you guys. Let's up the Pitocin. They did all that. They said, let's break the sac. I didn't dilate. 12 hours later, C-section. I felt like that there was a problem because of how they were all acting in the OR. And so it made me extremely nervous and anxious for me to know what was going on. I was asking her, kept saying, what's my blood pressure? Because my blood pressure, right before they took me back, after they gave me the epidural, my blood pressure all through pregnancy was low. But once they gave me the epidural, it went to like 70, it was like 76/42 or something. Low. It was really low, you guys. So they were just like, well, we got to move quick. The lady the nurse was hanging IV bags back to back. I lost count after bag 5. She just was hanging the IVs, and I remember kind of being drowsy-ish and like watching it drip. It was like a steady stream. Like it was dripping, but like at a pace that was quick. So I said, wow, she's really pushing this. I said, you want to slow that down? Because I don't want you to blow a vein, you know? And she said, it'll be fine. Does your site hurt where your needle is? I said, well, no, not really. I said, but if you keep it at that rate, it's going to blow. It did later on. And she did end up having to change it at some point after I had the baby. So I was right about that part, but I was slipping in and out. I was like, I'm so sleepy. Can I just go to sleep? And she's like, yeah, but she kept talking to me. So since I've been in the health field for so long, and I've been in hospitals and emergency situations so many different times, I know I know the dynamics and how I could tell by how they were acting that there was a problem, that they needed to hurry up with the surgery. So my husband was like, I could hear my husband in the background because he was sitting on my right when I was on the table, and he was like, I want to cut the umbilical cord, and the doctor was like, you don't get to do that. Sorry. He clips her, takes her out. The NICU, team is over there. They're checking her out. He's like, do you want me to do your tubal ligation? Yes or no? I said yes. And he was like, okay, so I need to let you know it's not 100%. I said, okay, just do it. And I was getting irritated because I was like, almost like he was trying to talk me out of it. Like, I don't think he didn't really want to make time to do it because my blood pressure was probably like bottoming out even worse. I was feeling real drowsy, real sleepy. And I guess it wanted to make sure that I was like sure, because I was kind of in and out of like sleep and awake. And then my husband took off once they took the baby, my husband went with the baby. So it was just me and the doctors in the OR. Maybe the saline diluted the pain medicine, I don't know. At this point, I could feel them cutting me, like doing like my tubal ligation. And I remember moaning and saying, it hurts, I can feel it. He said, no, it's just a little pressure. Just relax, calm down. They were all trying to keep me calm. They were all like, it's okay. You don't feel any pain. You just feel pressure. And I was still kind of drowsy in and out of, and I don't know if it's because I was hurting or what, but like, apparently they didn't want to give me any more whatever they were using for pain medicine. They didn't want to give it to me because it will contribute to lowering my blood pressure. So that happened. I went home, had a horrible time healing from the C-section. They gave me some the codone or hydrocodone in the pill, and I took that for probably like maybe 2 weeks. The first week, I can tell you guys, I was suffering from postpartum depression. Like, my baby was so colicky, I couldn't control my emotions, and it was just, thank God one of my good friends came by the next morning, because I called her and I told her, I said, I just want to drop her off at the hospital because I think the nurses could do a better job. I didn't want to harm her, and I didn't want to be I didn't feel like I was good enough to be her mom. So like, if you look up postpartum depression, you'll see those symptoms. And I had diagnosed myself. I talked with a therapist a little bit after having her. I got through that because it takes a village. Let me tell you, my husband, my mom, my friend, my cousins, like family, like they were there to make sure that I got breaks. I got some sleep. They sort of took over enough of the time to where I can gain my ground, or sort of get myself acclimated to the change. I developed over time, since the time since the time she was born, from probably very early on, 3 months, I would say, like a pretty terrible anxiety about leaving her. So like, it was a separation anxiety thing with myself and her. So she's a co-sleeper. She can't sleep without me. I was having panic attacks when I went to school, I went to work. I said, I'm just gonna live life, do what I would normally do, which I love. Like, I love going up a skill. Like, I was like, I'm still thinking about what I might go to school for again, because I love to go up a skill. So I was like, I'm going to go up a skill. I'm going to do medical assistant. I did that, got my 3.0. My daughter was like just about to turn 1. I had a few panic attacks in between there. They diagnosed me with high blood pressure. I was seriously extremely bloated. Like, uncomfortable, very irritable. Let me explain to you guys my panic attacks. This is the clinical definition of anxiety disorder or anxiety. Feelings of worry, anxiety, or fear are strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities. Symptoms would be whole body fatigue, restlessness, maybe some sweatiness, behavioral hypervigilance or irritability, racing thoughts, unwanted thoughts. Like, I'm always thinking like, okay, what if there's an accident? What if something happened? You know, I would get a phone call, she hit her head. I'm like hysterical. Well, you know, now we have to make sure that she doesn't need stitches or that she doesn't have a concussion. Like, you know, kids fall all the time. The problem was that my thoughts about it were like times 10. Like, whatever happened, it was like that happened, and now like it's worse than, like, it was always worse in my head than it actually is. So for me, fear is involved in my anxiety. Feeling like impending doom. I have a hard time sleeping. Sometimes nausea sets in. I have poor concentration sometimes, you guys. Like, that's developed over time, and I think that's kind of contributed because of part of my treatment. I take medication, and I'll tell you guys about that in a minute. The sensation of my heart being abnormal and heartbeat, or like a trembling or like feeling nervous. Let me guys tell you, after I had my sleeve surgery, my chest pain it felt like, okay, I know I had surgery like in my stomach, but I felt like 3 weeks later, like, why I'm having chest pains, I'm having a hard time breathing. I'm using my breathing apparatus. I'm walking and I'm like, do I have a blood clot? Like, I can't get my breath. Like, what should I do? I was like, okay, I haven't taken any pills for a week. I haven't taken any of my anxiety medication, which was lorazepam. They stopped me on lorazepam 2 months after surgery because it just was not working. I started taking my lorazepam again a week after surgery, and it was not working, you guys. It was not working. I was having chest pain. It's like jumping into it. Like, I've jumped into a pool of water, and I'm like struggling to get to the top. I've underestimated how deep this water is, and I'm panicking to get to the top to get air. That's how I feel. That's how it makes me feel, like when I'm having an anxiety attack or a panic attack. Same thing to me. Right now I'm being treated, and I thought for sure that I was going to get denied my psyche valves. I was like, this lady's gonna be like, no, she has an anxiety disorder, and she is going to have a hard time coping with this surgery. Now, let me tell you that it is not easy coping with weight loss. I have been okay with how I'm coping without throwing off my diet and eating either more or eating something that I shouldn't eat. My sleeve likes crackers, so I have to like say, okay, look, I can't have more than 4 crackers because there's no point in that. Because I'm already full. I'm never really hungry. There's no point in that. What will be the reason? So then so it forces me to analyze what's going on with me and to tap into the feeling or the fear or the thought and try to replace it with something that will either motivate me or put me into the now. Don't worry about what might happen later. Don't worry about if you know, when the baby gets old enough to go to Disneyland. I can't just be like on a Tuesday, I won't be able to walk in the park with her because they want to do surgery on my knees. I can't do that. You know, I have to stop that thought from consuming me and I can't lie, it interferes with daily living. It's nothing like feeling like you can't do something. Because for me, I have that personality. It drives me to keep trying harder. So I go to my doctor's offices. I said, listen, you guys, it's all fine and dandy. Like for a long time, I would just say, no, I don't need any Xanax, or just give me like a few of them, and then like, you know, it'll be fine. So it just, the way I deal with it, I avoid alcohol. I don't really hold liquor that well anyway. Like, I hate being drunk, and I try to avoid coffee. I love coffee. I love the taste of coffee, like caffeinated coffee, but it will contribute to my anxiety. And even, excuse me, even taking short walks will help me with my anxiety sometimes too. Going outside, not being inside, just being outside. What else? I try to manage stress sometimes with a little meditation. And a lot of times, like, if I can just, like right now, I'm like a block from my house, you guys. Like this, like to be able to just take a few minutes out of the day. It doesn't have to necessarily be every day for me, but to help manage the stress, to bring to take away all of the, because I'm constantly, like, I'm one of those moms that, like, it's like every detail, and it is so mentally exhausting that I need to turn it off, and I have to try to I have to make it okay for my daughter to do things without me standing there. So we are working on that, you guys. The homeschool I had planned on that years before. When I said, I was like, when I have kids, I'm gonna homeschool my kids, because I have my own, pros and cons about public school, and I have my pros and cons about homeschool, but I landed on homeschool. So, they tried to treat me with some SSRs or like antidepressants and stuff. Don't let them start putting you on that stuff. Like, it worked for, like, the first one they put me on, it worked for like 6 months, and then I had a full on, in the middle of a phone call at my desk, full on panic attack. And I could feel it building, and I kept asking my supervisor, can I get like a 10-minute break? And I wanted to go outside because I was having a hard time catching my breath. I was having chest pain. I was feeling it coming on. And before I could even, and then I got on I had a phone call ring, and she said, okay, she said, yeah, go in like 15 minutes. And I was like, okay, I can hang for that long. The call lasted like 45 minutes. Before the call was over, I was so frustrated. I was in full on tears. I put my headset down, and I ended up going from full-time to part-time. My doctor wrote me a note. What I'm saying is this, like, I'm forced to deal with myself after surgery, because I can't just go have like cake, or go have like, go sneak through the drive-through and go get like a milkshake and like a double cheeseburger or something. Can't do that now. You know what I'm saying? I can't cope in that way. So hang on a second. Let me see if I can get rid of some of the sun. So I can't cope that way anymore, and I think my anxiety is getting a little bit worse, because now I'm having to deal with myself, you guys, and that could be nerve-wracking. It could be exhausting. It's definitely emotional, and it's kind of one of those things that even though you know what's coming, it still catches you off guard. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, everybody kept warning me, oh, this is like all the therapists, they kept saying this is emotional journey, losing weight, because usually when you're overweight, you're coping with food and you're making bad choices, and it's easier to go and have like a double cheeseburger and french fries, and instead of actually telling and then to stand up for what you believe in verbally, because of fear of being rejected. So I'm done with that, you guys. Some anxiety for me can be alleviated by just saying what I need to say, and then being okay with people's response or reactions. because I cannot control them or what they're going to say or do, but I firmly believe in respect and saying things in a respectful way and getting your point across at the same time. I've learned that it's nothing to be ashamed of. A lot of us are going through anxiety disorders or depression or some type of disorder that affects us mentally, and it is exhausting, and we feel ashamed, and we feel like we can't talk to anybody about it. We feel alone. That's why a lot of times anxiety and depression goes hand in hand, because we don't feel like people understand, and then we start thinking about other things that we can be doing, we could be doing, but we have to get through the roadblocks of what happened in the past, because now all we can think about is how the past is going to affect our future instead of living in the actual present. So I know this is kind of a long video, and if you guys stayed for the whole video, thank you. I love you guys so much. I don't really have much more to say. That was just my my telling you guys what my experience is after weight loss surgery, and noticing and learning some things about myself, and sort of becoming bold enough to stand up for myself, and being okay with who I am. One time I was not okay with being a pushover, or what I would describe somebody who was always, yes, sure, I can do that, I'll help you. But now I refuse to let people abuse my kindness. I need it to be a mutual thing. I don't need anything in return if I help you, but I need it to be a mutual feeling, a mutual vibe. And I'm totally realistic, you guys, because a lot of people, friends and family, they have their own families, they have their own issues. Like I said, they don't really want to talk about their own depression, anxiety disorders. They have their own deaths in the family and things that go on. Like, it's not at all, like, I'm really realistic when I'm talking about when I'm talking about having a relationship with somebody that's mutual. Like, the vibe when you're with them. You know what I'm saying? I can accept no, you're busy, or no, you can't, or no, you're tired. You know what I'm saying? But you can't expect me to show up for you and you haven't said anything to me. How are you? Are you okay? Are you doing well? Also, you have to know when it's the season. You have some people show up in your life for a season, and then there's some people show up for a reason, and then, you know, life moves on. And some people, they show up and they stay in your life they stay with you for a lifetime. And it's like a handful of people. If you could even say a handful of people that you can actually say are your true friends, that you know they have your back at 100%, and they are there for you the same way that you're there for them. Like, you don't care if you're sick, you want to know if your friend is okay, and if they're sick, how can you help? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not, and then, but see, I'm not gonna let my friend do all of that and she's sick. I'm like, look, you already having a bad day. Thank you so much for offering. I feel that warmth. Okay, you guys, I had a phone call that just came in, so it kind of distracted me. I was pretty much done, you guys. I was just starting to ramble some more, which I don't want to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your empathy and your compassion, and yeah, I'm interested in hearing your feedback on how anxiety has affected your journey so far. And I just want to open up dialogue about, you know, anxiety or depression, or, you know, whatever you're clinically diagnosed with or you're not clinically diagnosed with, but you feel symptoms of that. And I just want you to know you can always reach out to me. I understand. Sometimes you don't always need advice. You just need somebody to listen and somebody to relate to. So, like I said, if you made it this far, I love you.